Hi everybody. So you all remember the euphoria that greeted the USA 94 World Cup and the Atlanta 96 Olympic Games. As we speak today, Nigeria stand the risk of not qualifying for the next World Cup in the United States and Canada and of course in Mexico. And that's because of our current position on the log, which is number 5. Consequently, we can't afford to drop any points in subsequent matches. As a result of that, I've compiled a series of insightful video analysis, to help Eric Shell make the best of decisions. So consequently, I'm going to be exposing the strengths and vulnerabilities of all our opponents going forward, starting with the Rwanda national team, aka the Amavubi. So guess what? Fiaka Ntwari, the goalkeeper of Rwanda, looks very impregnable. But in this particular series, or in this particular episode of the series, I've got good news for you. I dug deep into Fiaka Ntwari's strengths and weaknesses, and I have lots of vulnerabilities to share with you and Eric Shell, of course. In addition to that, I'm also going to be exposing the vulnerabilities of the defensive unit. So stick around as you watch this insightful analysis where I'm going to break down and do justice to the Rwanda national team. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and hit the like button as well. See you on the other side.
Fiaka Ntwari's distribution is quite decent as well. He also has the ability to make those distributions with both feet as well. This is exactly why Rwanda often builds from the back through him, because he has that, like I said, the ability to make very impressive ball distributions. In one-on-one situations, the guy can be really tough to beat because of his frame. His frame is somewhat, intimidating, and he's got very good timing as well when it comes to one-on-one. So guys, here is where it gets really interesting with Fiaka Ntwari. And this is where I believe strongly Nigeria can really hurt him. Because I've researched and analyzed this guy meticulously, and I've noticed this one pattern in him. He gets hesitant on crosses, and this is a very strange moment of indecision, especially when the ball hangs in the air. So whenever the balls are floated into his area, he starts to come, then stops, then comes again. So that split second of hesitation is all we need to pounce and exploit. He does this thing over and over again. Trust me, it's a habit. He can't stop now. He won't stop now. Trust me, he's gonna do it again.
So guys, in addition to the deficiency I just talked about with respect to the Rwandan goalie Ntwari, I have 3 more deficiencies to highlight about him. The first one is his positioning on long range shots is also very, very suspect, as he usually and typically tends to stand slightly too far to his right, leaving the left side of the goal more exposed. So you find Otuari tilting more towards the right side of the goal, especially when the ball is a bit far away from him, maybe in the midfield where players are getting busy with midfield duties. So basically, you find Otuari standing a bit too far to his right. So what can we do to exploit this deficiency in Otuari? We can test him early with shots from distance, especially to the left side of the goal. So we have players like Dele Bashiru, Ademola Lookman, you know, taking unexpected shots from long range. It's gonna catch him off guard for sure, because, like I said, he typically stands slightly too far to his right. So we can take those shots towards his left side towards the left side of the goal when he does that. Another deficiency in the Rwandan goalie Ntwari is that he's typically jittery when pressed. So like I said, he actually uses both feet, pretty decently, and he tries as much as possible to play out from the back. So whenever he tries to play out from the back, whenever he has the ball, he tries to play out from the back. So we can have players like Osimhen, Lookman, and all the offensive players, literally trying to close him up and high press as much as possible.
So when this happens, where you have players double teaming in from time to time, that's where mistakes happen for Ntwari. So basically, his decision making under pressure isn't great at all. He's not the best of decision makers when under immense pressure. So we should from time to time close him up when he tries to play out from the back. Um, Lastly, one more thing I've noticed about Ntwari is that he struggles when multiple players attack the ball on set pieces. So if you have situations whereby corner kick situations, for instance, where the tall guys come in to like attack headers and everything. So you have someone like Simon trying to float in a corner kick into the vital area, and you have players, multiple channels of potential goal scoring opportunities, you know. Um, so we need those coordinated runs with players attacking the front post, you know, players attacking the front post, players attacking the back post, and players making central runs. So when we set up such situations for Ntwari, is inevitably going to struggle because he's unsure of who exactly to keep an eye on or not. So that's another opportunity waiting for Nigeria to pounce on. So basically, those are the three deficiencies in Tuari. I'll just do a quick recap. His positioning is really poor um, on his goal line, as he tends to like stand slightly too far to his right, leaving a gaping hole towards the left side of the goal. Secondly, when pressed, is usually very jittery, such that he tends to make mistakes when players double team in or try to like high pressing. This actually makes him struggle a lot on the ball, such that he makes mistakes. Then, lastly, when corner kicks are floated in, you know he's unsure whether to leave his line or to attack the cross, and he's also very unsure which of the players he needs to keep an eye on. So these are actually the flaws or deficiencies in Utuari's game.
So, guys, I hope you're following. So, next up is Jimmy Mutsinzi, that very physically intimidating central defender. He's also got loads and loads of vulnerabilities. So, sit back and watch all the vulnerabilities I'll be sharing with you guys in this particular insightful video analysis.
For Jimmy Mutsinzi, he's a very strong central defender as well. In aerial duels, he's extremely dominant, and at times he jumps well and uses his body effectively. Unlike some center backs in African football, this guy is actually very comfortable with the ball at his feet, which is why Rwanda likes to, build through him sometimes. So basically, most of the playing out from the back from Rwanda happens through him. It starts with Fiaka Ntwari, the goalie, and usually the goalie looks for this guy called Jimmy Mutsinzi to kickstart playing out from the back. So keep an eye on him.
So, guys, despite all those good things about Jimmy Mutsinzi, that tough tackling central defender for Rwanda, he's also got his very clear weaknesses that Nigeria can exploit. The first thing I'm going to talk about with respect to his weaknesses is that he lacks explosive pace. This guy right here, Mutsinzi, he lacks explosive pace. Well, he's not slow, he's not exactly a slow player per se, but that first 5 to 10 yards, he struggles a lot, especially when having to turn around and run towards his own goal. He can also be drawn out of position. When the striker drops deep, like when Osimhen drops deep, when Osimhen drops deep, Mutsinzi usually follows. So this actually creates huge gaps in their defensive line because he's that type of a player that is always saddled with the responsibility of policing, top strikers. So Osimhen can actually act as a decoy, such that he's used to like distract the central defenders for the likes of Ademola Lookman to pounce or exploit the gaping hole. So the other thing about Mutsinzi is that against technical dribblers, like players who can manipulate the ball in tight spaces, he really struggles to adjust his feet quickly enough. So this is the reason. It's one of the reasons um, um, why I'm actually recommending deploying a player like Lukman as a number 10, because he's got the attributes of finding a way out of very tight spaces, and he's got one of the best first touches I've seen in world football. Also, he's got a very good clean set of feet, such that he's able to like get past players in 1v1 situations. So when you have a player that is as technically savvy as Ademola Lookman on the ball, who has the capacity to manipulate the ball in tight spaces, a player like Mutsinzi usually struggles to, adjust his feet quickly enough. So here's how to deal with these deficiencies. Here's how Nigeria can actually deal with the deficiencies in Jimmy Mutsinzi, what I would call, counter strategy. So we need to use quick combinations around the box. By quick combinations, I mean you need players that are very comfortable in tight spaces. So when you have the ball in the final third of the Rwandans, and players like Mutsinzi, in 2v1 situations against players like Lukman and Chukwueze, or Teller, as the case may be. So this is where Lukman actually excels, because those quick 1-2s that force defenders to constantly adjust their position, Lukman excels in such situations. So our forwards should make coordinated movements between center backs. When Osimhen drops deep, Lukman or maybe another defender makes a run behind. So this creates decision problems for a player like Mutsinzi. And also our high press should focus on forcing players like Mutsinzi into hasty decisions. He's very comfortable on the ball, but under intense pressure, his passing becomes very, very predictable. So when Osimhen makes such deep runs, you know, when he makes such deep runs, we need players that has the capacity to make quick combinations. And I believe Lukman and Chukwueze or Teller, or Lukman and Simon have the abilities, to make quick combinations on the ball. So these quick 1-2s actually force defenders to constantly, adjust their position. And if you're able to do that, like I said about Mutsinzi, he struggles with, sorting out his feet pretty quick. And that could actually find him, lagging behind in such 2v1 situations. Also, we need to watch for, a high defensive line. If Rwanda pushes up, when they push up like this, when the Rwandan back four push up like this, um, Osimhen and the wingers can exploit Mutsinzi's lack of pace, because he has difficulties coping with running back towards his goal. So these are the deficiencies in Mutsinzi that we can exploit to our advantage. So next up is the first choice right back for the Rwanda national team, and his name is Fitina Amborenga. This 6'1", extremely imposing 28-year-old defender loves to travel. I call him the journeyman because he has an addiction for overlapping, and therein lies his weaknesses and vulnerabilities. So the next video is going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Sit back and watch Fitina Amborenga's analysis.
So Amborenga is built like an athlete, strong, decent pace, and actually has a pretty good cross on him as well. I've been watching him closely and he's comfortable joining the attack, and this is something Rwanda uses to create overloads in wide areas. And in defensive duels, he's very strong. He's very good at shoulder-to-shoulder challenges and timing his tackles when players are in front of him. He's exceedingly strong, and this is one guy we need to keep an eye on.
So guys, having highlighted Amborenga's strengths and qualities, it's time to reveal his weaknesses. So here's the problem with Amborenga, despite all his athletic builds and everything. And this is something I don't think enough people are talking about, and that's his positional discipline. So Amborenga is such a player that is typically all over the place. He's got a chaotic side to his football, and it could be counterproductive to Rwanda's system. So for this guy, when he goes forward, he completely commits 100%. When he goes forward, he commits 100%. He's like a traveler that goes on a journey without even thinking about returning home anytime soon. So there's no half measure to this guy. He commits 100% when he goes forward. So here's the problem. He leaves a huge gap. He leaves a huge space behind him. And this is something we can actually exploit through Simon Moses. So Simon Moses will be our weapon on that left side when he goes on his journey, when Amborenga goes on his journey. So we can have Simon Moses exploiting that space because he's got the required pace, perfect for exploiting the space behind Amborenga. So when Amborenga pushes up, we need quick transitions targeting that space as quickly as possible. So let me just show you real quick. So when we have Amborenga, in offensive transitions like that, and he gets caught up by Basi or Dele Bashiru, and they dispossess him of the ball. If they dispossess him of the ball here and they send the ball straight to Simon. So Simon needs to exploit that space real quick before Amborenga makes a return. And this is how it's going to happen. Simon would make a diagonal run into the space. Now these two center backs, Manzi and Mutsinzi, would have a problem. They would be unsure whether to shift over to cover for the gap left behind by Amborenga, or they stay back to take care of Osimhen. So they are not sure whether to cover the space or stay back and keep an eye on Osimhen and let Simon run free. So while trying to make that decision, they're definitely going to have either Simon or Osimhen at some point free enough to punish the Rwandans for the runs made by Amborenga. So basically, we must be very, very prompt with making the decision whenever Amborenga is caught off field and the ball is sent back to exploit the space he leaves behind. The other thing about Amborenga is that he tends to dive into tackles in a very rash manner. He wants to win the ball early, so we need our wingers to use quick changes of direction and overlapping runs to create 2v1 situations against him. Because usually he tries to dive in real quick when he finds in 50-50 situations where
he stands a chance of winning possession. He likes to dive in real quick. So in such situations, we should we should play players, we should play wingers who use quick changes of direction and overlapping runs, such that we can have 2v1 situations against him. Like I said, he's a very rash defender, and he's definitely going to commit lots of free kicks, possibly penalties. So when he has a player with quick feet, he struggles to deal with such players.
So the next player I will be talking about right now is one of the more technically gifted Rwandan players. He's no other than the 30-year-old Rwandan defender, one of the left back options, one of the left back wing back options for the Rwandan national team. And his name is Emmanuel Imanishimwe. This man actually has the capacity to whip in quality crosses. He's very calm under pressure and is very, very comfortable being ambipedal. So sit back and watch the analysis of one of the best left wing backs in the Rwandan football national team.
Emmanuel Imanishimwe is technically one of Rwanda's better players. Unlike Fitina Amborenga, Emmanuel Imanishimwe is quite comfortable on the ball and stands out immediately. He doesn't panic in possession and can use both feet reasonably. His crossing and set-piece delivery can be extremely dangerous. He's got a good whip on the ball and can pick his targets in the box as well. He's very intelligent and has got great vision to pick up his teammates in crowded spaces. So what makes him very valuable to Rwanda is his versatility across the left side. He can also play as a center back and can play as a traditional fullback, wing back. Basically, he's so versatile and multifaceted and can also play in the midfield.
Next player in Rwanda we will be analyzing right now is one of the two options, one of the two left back, wing back options for the Amavubis. So after all the glowing tributes paid to Emmanuel Imanishimwe with respect to his strengths and strong points, basically, like Amborenga, his attacking instincts mean he's often caught out of position defensively as well. He also has the same flaws as Amborenga on the right side. So he loves to attack, he loves to make offensive transitions. There lies a very significant space behind him, just like Amborenga, and this can be exploited by Chukwueze or Tella, as the case may be. And also, another big deficiency in Emmanuel Imanishimwe is that because he's actually the first choice left back, so it doesn't matter who plays left back for Rwanda, be it Imanishimwe or be it Emmanuel Imanishimwe or the other guy, Claude Niyomugabo. It doesn't really matter. Both are actually loopholes in Rwanda's back four. So he also actually he lacks defensive discipline because he focuses more on attacking contributions, like I said. And against very tricky, fleet-footed wingers like Chukwueze or Tella, he's going to struggle. Because these guys here, Chukwueze or Tella, they have the capability to change direction really quickly. They can actually, twist and turn and change direction. Before you know it, they've flown past you as a defender. So he's going to struggle against the likes of Chukwueze and or Tella. Because this guy here, he has one big weakness. He actually struggles a lot to adjust his body and feet when under intense scrutiny by a very technically gifted dribbler like Chukwueze and Tella. He struggles to adjust his body and feet. Then also, he's got his recovery pace. His recovery pace is very limited. Once beaten, he's the type of player that when a player like Chukwueze faces him one-on-one, if he beats him to his right, or if he sells a dummy to him to his right, and actually goes to his left, is that type of player that does not have the required capacity to recover quickly. So he's got very poor recovery pace. Once beaten, he struggles to get back into his definitive shape quickly. And that's one loophole Nigeria must be looking forward to exploiting. So this is how Nigeria can actually approach a player like Imanishimwe and his several deficiencies. We can use Chukwueze or Teller, as the case may be, like I said, to exploit the space behind him whenever he advances in offensive transitions. These fleet-footed players can actually pounce on the space. There's a gold mine in this space that can actually serve as a loophole to penetrate the Rwandan back four. Also, we can target his side with quick transitions when Rwanda lose possession. Like I said, it's a loophole. Be it himself or Claude Niyomugabo, they are actually loopholes. Also, again, one other thing we can actually do to benefit from the loophole on the left side of the Rwanda national team is to have double up on the side during defensive phases. Combine our right winger and right back to create overload, just like what I talked about in Niyomugabo's case. Is also one player that's going to struggle a lot with 2v1 situations. So when we force him onto his weaker foot, he's reasonably two-footed though, but one of his feet, I think his right foot is not exactly as effective as his left. So it's going to be more advisable for a player like Chukwueze, instead of going through the flank and giving him the luxury of using his stronger foot, which is his left foot. Instead of doing that, he can actually always cut in. And Chukwueze is actually that kind of a player that loves to cut in instead of going all the way to the byline. He loves to cut in. So it's more advisable for Chukwueze to do a lot of inverted football, inverted play by cutting inside of Imanishimwe, because that's his weaker foot. The right foot of Imanishimwe is the weaker one. So if Chukwueze cuts in, plays inverted football for most of the 90 minutes, Imanishimwe is such a player that is unable to adjust his body on time, to tackle the player, the opposition player. So these are three weaknesses in Imanishimwe's game. Number one, he loves to travel a lot and leave space behind him. Number two, he does not have the required recovery pace when he's been sold a bait towards one of his sides. When you try to change sides, it does not have the required pace to recover. The number three is very, very poor. He's not exactly a good right footer, but that's one thing we can actually do: cut inside and exploit the weakness of his weaker foot.
So the last but not the least defender I will be analyzing in today's video analysis is Claude Niyomugabo. This not so physical left back is actually one of the left back options alongside Emmanuel Imanishimwe. So this not so physically intimidating left back option makes up or compensates for his frailty with intelligent positioning. Sit back and watch the analysis of Claude Niyomugabo. Is one of the guys to keep an eye on against Nigeria.
So let me tell you something about Claude Niyomugabo. I like this young man's name, Niyomugabo. So what I'm about to tell you about this guy isn't talked about enough. So while Rwanda's right back, Emmanuel Amborenga, gets a lot of attention for his attacking abilities, Niyomugabo on the left side brings a different kind of stability to their back line. So what stands out immediately with Niyomugabo is his defensive positioning. He's more measured in his approach, unlike Amborenga. And I actually realized he maintains a good balance between, supporting attacks and maintaining defensive solidity as well. Also, his technical ability on the ball is actually quite good for a defensive player at his level. I mean, it's quite commendable. He's also very comfortable receiving under pressure and generally makes sensible decisions when he's in possession. He's not a flashy, flamboyant, sophisticated defender, but he's extremely very effective. And if you ask me, that's what really matters. So while he's not the most physically imposing defender, like I said earlier, he actually compensates with intelligent positioning. So you need to watch how he handles one-on-one situations. He doesn't dive in at all. He's really, really relaxed and calm. So what I find very interesting about Claude Niyomugabo is his discipline. In matches where Rwanda comes under sustained pressure, he actually maintains his shape and doesn't get drawn out of position easily. He's very stubborn and he maintains positional discipline. This organizational quality is something managers clearly value, and that's why he's one of the first choice players for the Amavubis. Also, in addition to all of that, he's also got very good recovery pace. He can also make up ground when needed, and he actually communicates well with the center backs and midfielders around him, ensuring their defensive line stays very organized. This young guy is actually one of the better players in the Rwanda national team, and definitely one to keep an eye on.
So, guys, the next player we will be analyzing right now is one guy that I like his name so much. His name cracks me up. I'm a big fan of his name, Claude Niyomugabo. So let's dive deep into Niyomugabo's several weaknesses, having expansively enumerated his strong points. So first, he can be very, very vulnerable against very direct and powerful wingers. So fortunately for him, the wingers is going to be faced with actually as frail as himself. So that's not going to be a big problem for him. But if Niyomugabo would be starting, then we might as well be thinking about other options outside of the duo of Chukwueze and Taylor. Anyways, that's by the way. So another huge flaw in Niyomugabo's game is that he tends to back off too much, giving opponents time and space to deliver crosses or cut inside. He's the type of player that believes so much in shadow marking. He doesn't move close to his opponent. It gives him the room to come at him, to have a go at him, while he keeps his eye on the ball. He keeps his eye on the ball and keeps backing off. So that's a huge deficiency, especially when you're faced with fleet-footed players like Chukwueze and Taylor. They can actually have the required space to fly past him. So when you have this room in front of a player like Chukwueze, he's happy to dance in front of you. So I suspect if Chukwueze starts on the day and Niyomugabo starts ahead of Emmanuel Imanishimwe, Chukwueze might be having one of his best games for Nigeria. So that's one big deficiency in Niyomugabo's game. He likes to back off. He invites the player to keep coming. Then he now makes a last-minute tackle that could actually be often miscalculated. So that's a huge, huge deficiency in Niyomugabo's game. Another flaw about this 26-year-old APR defender, because he's actually one of the many locally based Rwandan players in the squad. He plays for one of the Rwandan clubs called APR. So one other big problem he has is his final balls when making offensive transitions. He's not one of those players you have to worry about or have sleepless nights about because of his quality of deliveries. No, he's not exactly a good ball crosser. So I know would have probably an easy day in office when the likes of Niyomugabo starts. So let me tell you how we should deal with a player like Niyomugabo. So when Niyomugabo is defending, like I said, he believes so much in shadow marking, he doesn't move close to his player, to his opponents. I've noticed that in big games, Niyomugabo has a tendency to become more conservative as the match progresses. In the first 15 to 20 minutes, he might join attacks occasionally, but when Rwanda is under pressure, he rarely leaves or he rarely ventures forward after that. This means Nigeria can potentially commit players forward on that side without worrying too much about being caught up on the counter, because he's not exactly one of the best offensive-minded players. So we can probably invite a lot of 2v1 situations, because we can create overloads on the side and not exactly get worried about um, being caught up at the back, because it's not the best of offensive players. So in 2v1 situations like this, where you have Chukwueze or Tella and Aino versus Niyomugabo, trust me, it's game over. So let's hope Niyomugabo starts ahead of Emmanuel Imanishimwe. And if he doesn't start, he's most likely going to play as one of the two center backs or in the defensive midfield. But one thing is for sure, Niyomugabo is going to have some minutes out of the 90 minutes on match day. So for me, the battle between Chukwueze and Niyomugabo is one to keep an eye on. It's going to be one of the most important matchups. As a matter of fact, if Niyomugabo starts ahead of Emmanuel Imanishimwe, I suspect Chukwueze is going to have one of his best games for the national team, because this man here, Niyomugabo, is going to give him a whole lot of room to fly. Like I said, he doesn't believe in close marking. He believes so much in shadow marking. That is Niyomugabo. And when you shadow mark a player like Chukwueze, he's gonna dance. He's gonna dance in front of you and get past you as quickly as possible. So that's one loophole in the Rwandan national team we need to keep an eye on. Claude Niyomugabo.
Yeah, so guys, we've come to the end of this particular episode of the series, critically analyzing the Rwandan players. So like you all saw, this particular episode was dedicated to the critical analysis of the Rwandan back four and the goalkeeper. So subsequently in the next episode, we're going to be talking about the midfield. Then subsequently after that, we're going to be talking about the attacking side of the Rwandan national team. What you're watching right now is my own contribution to making sure Nigeria qualifies for USA, Canada, Mexico 2026 FIFA World Cup. And your own contribution is to making sure you subscribe to my channel, because that's the only way you can keep me motivated to keep making videos, insightful videos as this. So I'm banking on you to keep subscribing, keep sharing, keep liking, and keep commenting, of course. So man, watching my video without subscribing is not going to keep me motivated. So I'm banking on you guys to keep subscribing, keep watching, keep sharing, and keep liking. That's the only way you can keep me motivated to keep making videos like this. Nigeria needs to qualify for the World Cup by hook or by crook. Literally. So we have to do what we have to do to make sure this happens. The next video will be dedicated to the critical analysis of the Rwandan midfield. See you around. Bye.